Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of LaFlamme Throwers, the best in NFL news and sports news in general. I'm joined by Steve True North and Michael Frog LaFlamme, and tonight we have a very special guest who's going to be covering the Chicago Bears, Bob Huggins maybe, a little bit of Virginia action. We may talk about Gary, Indiana. Who knows what we're going to do? We're joined by Oliver Crawford. Steve, would you like to introduce Oliver formally?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Kitch. Hello, everybody. One thing that I think everyone knows by now is we hold all of our guests in exceptionally high regard. One of our most recent all-star guests was Martin Wilkes, who spent some time talking a little bit about the Atlanta Falcons and more about his hatred of the New Orleans Saints. And after the podcast, Martin reached out to us and said, look, I've got a guy who's an absolute all-star, knows his stuff, the most knowledgeable hardcore Bears fan you're ever going to meet. So segue to Oliver Crawford. Had the chance to speak with Oliver probably about a week and a half ago while we were trying to get the call set. Fantastic guy, super interesting background. And Martin was right. This guy knows his stuff when it comes to Bears football. And if we get some of those other trailing topics out there, we might have to open that closet door a little bit. But yeah, we got to thank Martin for this. And Oliver, it's been a pleasure to meet you. We look forward to talking some Bears.
Kind words, my friend. Kind words. Dang. I need you to introduce me when I go into the courtroom, but thank you for having me on.
Thanks, Oliver. Thanks for joining us. And I should say, actually, Frog couldn't make it this week. And in his place, we have Bears superfan from the south side of Chicago, Bob. Bob?
Hey, it's an honor to be here. It's Bob Robowski. You can call me Bob Rob for short. And I'm excited now. We can't forget we had the airness on, so I have on some shoes to show off his airness. And but for tonight, since we're talking Bears, this is little business in the front jersey. I got some sweats just in case if I ever get the phone call from the Bears to go ahead and run a few patterns here and there. But so far, the vending business has been really good for me. So the contract's going to have to be very substantial.
Awesome, Bob Rob. So, Oliver, you are sporting a Khalil Mack jersey.
That's
right. Is
right.
he your favorite current Bear, favorite all-time Bear? Who's your favorite Bear player?
Ooh, that is a good question. Brian Urlacher. Brian Urlacher is 1A and 1B was Mike Brown. Mike Brown is safety. And actually, I have to go 1A, 1B, and 1C. I apologize because I just forgot about Devin Hester. I'd be remiss to leave Devin Hester. He was the most electric. He should be in the Hall of Fame just off of kick return skills. I don't care if the boy can catch or not. I'm pretty sure he has the record for most kick return touchdowns in the history of the league. So it's like him and Deion Sanders are the best I've ever seen. And that 1 year of Dante Hall. If you guys remember
1 year,
Kansas City.
Yeah, it was 1 year.
Yeah. But Mike Brown was interesting. He's got a twin brother, and they both went to Nebraska, and then both are actually doctors now. They were pre-med students at Nebraska. So smart guy. That's what you want at the back end of your defense, was able to call everything. That defense, and I believe that was either 06 or 07. It was my freshman year in college when we made it to the Super Bowl. We scored on actually a kick return from Devin Hester, and then we got smacked because we had Rex Grossman. So, hey, but I had a couple beers for that kick return. So that's how I remember it.
I think there's some ties between Bob Rob's nephew Frog and Devin Hester. Bob Rob, you want to tell us what Frog said about Devin?
Yeah, so Frog happened to be a part of the scouting staff during that time, really at a special time. I remember being there when we drafted him and being a part of that Super Bowl run, and starts off is one of the words, not mine. I still have plenty of good memories like I did on Sunday night watching The Last Dance of the 6 titles. I'm a little bit older than you, so I even remember the 85 Bears, and that's about it when it comes to football. But I heard a lot of good stories from him. Could be another time, another podcast, but thanks for bringing up an awful heartache to Frog, because that was a very hard day for him.
Hey, Bob, that's a great story. You were cutting out a little bit, so I might be asking you to repeat some of what you were saying. But first of all, similar to what you said with Oliver, We're really thrilled to have you on the podcast. Frankly, you're much better looking than Frog. Frog gets extremely boring, to be honest with you, from time to time. And I hope you never tell him this, because we're enjoying the fact that he's gone right now, because when he's here, it's just like nails on a chalkboard. So having you in his place is really a breath of fresh air. Thank you.
I do what I can do.
Right. Well, yes. So, Bob, I want to thank you for that, and want to make sure that we have a chance to hear your thoughts. What do you think about? You were breaking up a little bit when you were talking about the Devin Hesters and Brian Urlachers of the world. What are some thoughts you have about those players from that Super Bowl Bears team, or what do you hear about from your cousin Frog?
Yeah, the one thing he shared about as far as the great players on that team, they really, really, absolutely loved football. The great ones loved football. They just couldn't get enough of it. Like, they were at times giggling with joy, and it's no exaggeration because Frog doesn't lie, but like just giggling with joy when they would go out there on the practice field and always competing. And there was a special enthusiasm for all the great ones. And we unfortunately did not have Mike Brown the entire year. He got hurt during the Arizona game. I believe he's from Arizona too, which it kind of doubly hurt. So I believe if Mike Brown would have been around, that would have been probably the second best defense in the history of the NFL behind the '85 Bears, and Peyton Manning wouldn't have had a chance in the Super Bowl. But hey, we found a way to make it work and get there, and they had a chance to win for the first, I would say the first 28 minutes, and then the rest of it fell apart.
Was that the We Are What They Thought We Are game when Denny Green was it that game when Mike got hurt?
That is that game.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. We'll watch that in my dorm.
So, Bob, I want to make sure I understand you correctly. You said the Bears spent a lot of time giggling on the football field. Thank you for pointing that out to all of us. We're glad to know it. You ranked them behind the 1985 Bears defense. You're not giving any credit to those late 90s, early 2000s Baltimore defenses, specifically under Marvin Lewis, that many others would say were among the best of all time. And Oliver, I'll put that out one to you as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to take my Homer hat off on that one. I would say the Ravens are probably second, just because basically just strictly because they had Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, and I think they even had Deion for one of those years. Old Deion, but he was still pretty good. He was playing like nickel at the time. But yeah, that defense was unbelievable. Young Terrell Suggs. Shoot, man, I'm probably leaving guys off of there. I'm sorry, but that's just three. That's like what three or four Hall of Famers I just named off the top of my head. Whereas the Bears defense was very good, but it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. They were very opportunistic though. The Bears defense. We had a lot of turnovers, but I think that I heard this recently actually in a podcast that the Ravens defense that year they won the Super Bowl didn't give up 1,000 yards collectively altogether the whole season. So, and I believe they averaged 10 points given up per year or per game on average. So basically they got if they scored 2 touchdowns, they won. Mm-hmm. If you can win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer, you're doing something right. So.
Yeah. Now, listen, I'll tell you, first of all, it's great to have Bob on here. If I had a dime for every time I heard Frog tell us about how he was the reason they drafted Devin Hester, I'd be a rich man. So anyway.
Fake news.
Exactly. Fake news. So I'll ask this to Bob and to Oliver. The better Bears quarterback, Rex Grossman or Jay Cutler?
Cutler. No doubt.
Cutler.
Yeah. Easily.
Wow.
Cutler was actually a talented quarterback. He just had horrible decision making. Like he actually had games like I will never forget it was on Monday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. He threw a touchdown pass to win the game at the end. Like that was amazing. Rex didn't do a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I will say this for Grossman's defense. The offense surrounded by Cutler was actually pretty good. He had weapons. He had Matt Forte. He had a pretty good line. Kyle Long was still healthy. Matt Forte, like I said that already. Brandon Marshall. I believe they had Olsen for a little bit, Greg Olsen. That was a squad. I don't know. To this day, I loathe Mark Trestman for trading Greg Olsen. He's a borderline, Hall of Famer. I don't know. You got to look at his numbers. He's pretty damn good, though. We'll see what he does in Seattle this year. But for me, it's Cutler.
I prefer not to talk about Bears quarterbacks. I'm still devastated. I'm still devastated that they drafted a ski in Trubisky, and they're not doing well. So, Oliver, why haven't they gone 18-1 yet that they have a ski at quarterback?
Oh, man. I don't know why we drafted Trubisky. Like, I was literally, it's hard to keep a lawyer at a loss of words. That did it. That did it for me. I didn't know what to say. They traded up. No one was taking him at 2 or 3. Could have had Pat Mahomes. Could have had Deshaun Watson. I think about that in my nightmares. Thanks for bringing that up, guys. It's been a pleasure meeting you all.
Now Oliver, at the time of that draft, were you really thinking like, doggone it? I know Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes. I think everybody was kind of like, who's this kid?
Not me.
Were you really?
West Virginia plays in the Big 12, and he lit us up.
Really?
He had like 500 yards against us, and I didn't think that we would draft him. I wanted Solomon Thomas out of Stanford, the defensive end. He's not done very well either.
Chicago went also.
Yeah, he hasn't done very well. I would have liked Deshaun. That's who I really wanted. Anybody, but Mitchell Trubisky is from Ohio and didn't get offered by Ohio State. To me, that's all you need to know.
No.
Yeah. And he got beat out by a dude that was like got drafted as a receiver. Only played 1 year at North Carolina. Wasn't impressed. Still not. Let's go Nick Foles.
Oliver, Nick Foles your number one choice with all the free agent quarterbacks that were on the market this season? Would Nick Foles, if you were making the decisions and you had your pick of the litter, Phillip Rivers, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Jameis Winston, Cam Newton, you name it, who would
Tom
you
Brady?
take?
You got to throw Tom Brady in there.
Tom Brady. That's right, of course. If you could have had, well, let's take Tom Brady out of it for this.
Yeah, he wasn't coming to Chicago.
Yeah, so if we remove Tom Brady from that list, who would you have taken? Would it have been Nick Foles, or was someone else out there that caught your eye?
Cam Newton. That's a no-brainer. If you can add an MVP to your roster, 2 years removed from winning, maybe 3 now. I know he's got the injury thing. I think the thing with the COVID has really messed him up because he can't really work out for teams and they can't see him throw in person. They can't check him. They have the doctors check him out. Shoot, I would have taken Teddy Bridgewater. Anybody. Now, Nick Foles is not really like invigorating to me. Well, only thing that's kind of cool is he understands the offense. He's played under that Chuck Peterson guy comes from Kansas City, so he knows the offense. It's probably different terminology, but he'll be able to pick up the scheme pretty quick. I don't think Trubisky will start past week 5. That's my prediction.
Well, let me try to paint a little bit brighter light when we're talking about Chicago Bears' current QB situation. Do they have good running backs? Because you can hand the ball off and win a bunch of games because we experienced it in years past. So how's their running game? Because all they have to do is hand it off. I mean, sweetness. Need I say more? Forte. Need I say more? Thomas Jones. Need I say more?
TJ.
Who do they have now that can help the quarterbacks out by them not throwing it?
I like Devin Singletary. I liked him coming out of the draft. He didn't do as well as I would have liked it last year. And they obviously got Tariq Cohen, who can pretty much, he's like your go-go gadget. They got to make their rushing game wasn't very good last year. A lot of the problem, it can't be all on Trubisky. The line wasn't very good last year either. I'm interested to see how they do, who's going to replace Kyle Long, because he was good when he was healthy. His body broke down a little bit there towards the end, but he was a really good player. So if the line can be decent, we'll see. Because we couldn't run the ball for crap, and it put Trubisky in a lot of third and long. And I don't know if you ever seen when we get off this, I'll send you guys a link, and it's pretty funny. It's Trubisky trying to throw to his left, can't do it. So once the defense has known that, they shift the zone the other way.
Is it a footwork problem, Oliver, or is that an arm strength problem, an accuracy problem? What's the issue with him throwing to his left?
Usually it's footwork with if he's not planting his feet the right way, he needs to do that better because he's like, I can't say this, I've never played quarterback. I played wide receiver. But I listened to Chris Sims, who was pretty good at breaking down quarterbacks, and he's always talking about you got to like lead with your foot, your throwing foot, or I guess your opposite foot. So if you're right-handed, your left foot. He's not doing that. His foot like sits over here, sits straight when he's trying to throw it across his body, which for a right-handed quarterback, you should be pretty good at, which is kind of odd. And he sells it, man. There's like I forgot, I think it was Albert Breer. He has a tweet. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds of just him overthrowing wide open receivers trying to throw to his left. Terrible.
He's
not on the run either.
Did he do that 2 years ago? And I'll ask you, and I'll also ask Bob, why do these quarterbacks have one good year and then regress? Does the NFL figure them out, or does something happen to them confidence-wise?
I think they get figured out. It's kind of like tape when you have a really, really wicked pitcher. If you bring them up, and all of a sudden he's got a wicked slider, people start reading that slider. If you look at Trubisky's the year before last, they basically were trying to do. They did a lot of deception, a lot of motion, a lot of like everybody moving around, a lot of guys going to motion pre-snap, and they would do little fake handoffs, kind of like RPO type stuff, and they would kind of cut the field in half. And that he's really good on his first read. If the first read's there, he's a good quarterback because he's got an arm. It's not that. I don't think he processes the game that quick. And part of that because he hasn't played a whole bunch of football. Like I said, he played 1 year in college, basically, and then they drafted him on potential, and I don't think that was a good pick. That wasn't a good. Sometimes you got to, if that's your guy, that's your guy. But sometimes you can't get every pick right. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, here in Frog Talk, typically it's about 20 to 25 games, almost 2 seasons, but sometimes you don't even need this all the way through the second season where quarterback really gets figured out. And as far as their tendencies, and it's up to the quarterback to adjust to that. And if they have the ability and they can adjust, then thus they have more lasting power. And then it depends upon like how good they really are. So that does happen. And that's really hard because hearing the stories about Rex Grossman, he was very specific. It was the Miami Dolphins game that the Bears were undefeated, blowing out teams like crazy. And then the Dolphins beat us, and they were a rebuilding team, and all that Dom Capers did was just rush them up the middle. Rex couldn't see, just threw it to spots, and then the rest was history for him. He would have some flashes of good and have some flashes of bad, and every time he stepped back to throw, you're like, oh my God. And then sometimes it was good, sometimes it was bad for the rest of that year. Then after that, it was mostly bad.